Lower back pain is the most common pain that people suffer with, but it doesn't have to be this way. So I wanted to show you a little clip from our Lower Body Fix Masterclass that is focusing on several different movements to help you reduce or even eliminate your lower back pain. Check it out. So let's go to the lower back, okay? I want to talk about first why people have lower back pain, all right? But first I'm gonna take a quick sip of water. There are two common reasons that people have lower back pain. The first one is called a kyphotic posture, and the second one is called a lordotic posture, okay? So from a side angle, what I mean is this. Kyphotic posture is rounded back, tight hamstrings, and when we round our back like this, we put pressure on the vertebrae right here because it's always trying to hold us up, right? This is the classic, I'm hunchback, my glutes aren't active, right? My hamstrings are tight. This is a classic posture that people go through that ends up with lower back pain. And also, when we do that, when we go down, if our hamstrings are tight, when we go to pick stuff up, we round our back like this, and we lift through our lower back, and it causes aches, pains, and injuries in the lower back, okay? The second posture is lordotic. Lordotic looks like this. It's butt back like this, and it's a little bit of a sway back, okay? This one's also known as anterior pelvic tilt. This one's a little different. So instead of having tight hamstrings and weak glutes, typically you might have strong glutes, but tight hip flexors. And you might also have aches and pains in your neck because your neck is usually pulled back like this in this position, okay? So depending on where you're at, if you are lordotic, then one of the most important things you can do for your lower back pain is stretch your hamstrings, okay? I'm gonna show you my favorite hamstring stretch. This one is so simple. People always ask me for more hamstring stretches and I say no, because all you need is this one if you wanna have loose hamstrings, okay? So take a towel, put it next to your bed, roll that towel up, put it over the ball of your foot. This is really important. Don't put it over the arch of your foot like this, right? Put it over the ball of your foot by the toes, okay? From there, straighten your leg. Your towel can be nice and long, right? It doesn't have to be short like mine. And then the first thing you do before you pull your leg up is pull your toes towards your nose. You can even use that muscle in the front of your shin to pull your toes to your nose. Now relax your body and take some big breaths and enjoy, right? As you exhale, try to pull your leg towards you more and just relax. Now, when we're doing a deep stretch like this, we're not trying to go to 100%. 100% means muscle tension, and muscle tension doesn't mean flexibility, okay? So instead, we wanna go to like 80, 85%, breathe and relax until that becomes like 70%, and then pull a little bit more. And just repeat that process. 60 to 90 seconds on the left, 60 to 90 seconds on the right. If you have that kyphotic posture, if you have that kind of hunchback posture like this, okay? And we stretch our hamstrings, well, the hamstrings get looser, we get taller, and if we couple that with the glute activation that we just went over for the hips, now all of a sudden, when we're walking, we're not extending through our lumbar spine and our hamstrings, we're extending through our glute muscles, and we're fully stretching the hamstrings with every step that we take. So stretching the hamstrings and activating the glutes and the core, really important for the lower back. Now, if you have the opposite posture, right, the anterior pelvic tilt like this, then it's quite likely that you have tight hip flexors. And this is getting more and more common over time because what happens? We sit, okay? When we sit, what happens to our hip flexors? They get short. And then we stand up and our hip flexors are still short and they pull our pelvis into this position. And if our pelvis is in this position, well, it's pinching down our discs, it's pinching down on our nerves, and it's bringing SI joint pain, lower back pain. It's making us a lot more susceptible to those things. So how do we stretch our hip flexors? One of two ways. First, I'll do standing because it's a little bit easier for most people. So you can do this. One step forward like you're in a lunge. Here, turn your pelvis forward. Tilt your tailbone towards the ground. This is the biggest mistake people make when stretching the hip flexors, is instead of turning their pelvis towards the ground like this, they'll stretch their hip flexor, and as they go, you'll see from a side angle, they'll just continue to arch their back more. So all I'm doing here is just staying in a bad position and moving my body forward. What I want is this. I want my pelvis to tuck under, okay? Pelvis to tuck under. That way I can feel the stretch deeply in the front of the hip flexors right here, okay? Now, same thing, holding this position for 30 to 60 seconds. Big breath in, and as you do that, imagine length, 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 length through the backside of that foot, or that leg, right? And hold, and then breathe and relax, and every time you breathe, creating that length, okay? Now, what's great about the standing hip flexor stretch is you can literally do this like you're waiting in line at the bank and you're like, I know I got tight hip flexors. Boom, I'm stretching my hip flexors, right? Okay, you're at your kid's baseball game, boom, I'm stretching my hip flexors, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing, right? There's so many opportunities throughout the day to move your body a little bit, and you know, at WeShape we call these movement snacks, right? Instead of, you know, you need a little energy, so you eat a little food snack. Well, maybe your body needs a little movement, you do a little movement snatch, bam, stretch your hip flexors, okay? So this is fantastic. The more often we do this, and the more often we activate the glutes, which are also gonna help this posture, the more it's gonna bring our body into that middle position right there. Okay, I got one more for you on the lower body, and then we're gonna bring it together, okay? Or on the lower back, rather. Why people end up hurting their lower back is often because they hinge to the hips wrong, and it's because they don't activate their core, okay? So I've just showed you how to stretch your hip flexors, stretch your hamstrings, activate your glutes, which should all help with the lower back. But if you don't know how to activate your core properly, which is something that most people don't teach very well, then you're gonna suffer from lower back pain. So I'm gonna introduce to you a type of core activation that most people haven't heard of. It's called the elevator, okay? I'm gonna actually teach this in a lying position today because I feel like that'll give us a chance for you to see it a lot more, what I'm actually doing. So, in the past, if you've ever gone to a workout class or a Pilates class especially, you've heard people say what when they say activate your core? They say what? Draw your belly button towards your spine like this, okay? Now, while that does activate these deep core muscles that can stabilize the spine, it neglects activating all of the muscles of the core at the same time. And so here's the deal. If I told you that I was gonna drop a bowling ball on your stomach right here, would you suck your belly in naturally? You might think you should, but that's not the best way to activate your core. How you activate your core is this. You would press your stomach out and press your lower back into the ground. That would actually activate all the muscles of your core. This is called abdominal bracing, but I like to teach it in a move called the elevator. Why is it called the elevator? Check this out. Here's the people. They go on your belly like this, right? And here's the elevator. Whoop, and we lift the people up with the elevator. So here's how it works. You can take your belly button right here and the top of your hip crease right here, take your 2 fingers and poke it right in between those areas. Usually there's a nice soft spot right there in between your rectus abdominis and your obliques, okay? Find the same spot on the other side. Now from there, what you're gonna do is take a big breath in, push your lower back into the ground, so I'm pressing my lower back down into the ground, and lift the people in the elevator. Now at first what's gonna happen is this, okay? This is a frustrating movement. This is a neurological drill. You're building your mind-muscle connection with all the muscles of your core. And at first you're gonna be like, this is a waste of my time. But here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna lift the fingers up using a big breath, and then you're not gonna be able to take a breath. You're gonna go, and then the moment you exhale, your fingers are gonna go back in like this. That's totally fine to start. So what we wanna do is start there, and then we wanna be able to take a big breath in, push the fingers out, and then take little sips of air. Little in, little out, while maintaining those fingers being pushed out. And over time, we want to be able to expand on that by being able to talk, by being able to take full inhale, full exhale, while maintaining those fingers being pushed out. When we can have a conversation with those fingers being pushed out the entire time, then we'll know we've mastered this drill. Now, why is this so important? Well, what they found was when we activate our core using abdominal bracing or using the elevator, it creates intra-abdominal pressure. It stabilizes the core by firing all the muscles that run around the core, as well as the pelvic floor and the diaphragm. And what this does is it makes your pelvis and your spine become one piece, okay? Now that's leading me to the second reason why most people end up with lower back pain. When we go to move through the hips, we bend forward like this, and what happens? What we should be doing is this. If I brace, then my pelvis and my spine are one piece, okay? My spine is here, my pelvis is here. There's no movement inside where the spine meets the pelvis, the SI joint, right? It just moves in one piece. If I don't brace properly, then I go like this. And I move through my back and I round my back and I go to pick something up and, oh man, I have SI joint pain, my back hurts, right? Whatever it may be, okay? So this is what we're gonna work on next. We're gonna work on getting that bracing feeling in the core, right? And this time, we're gonna work on activating the arches, pushing the butt back, feeling the glutes activated, just like we were working on with the glute activation drills, right? And then making sure the knees are going the same direction as your toes, hinging forward through the hips, and then coming forward with a flat back. The moment we feel those hamstrings get real tight, and where we stretch the hamstrings too, then we're gonna round to the back. Don't do it, right? So get to the tight hamstrings, and then this time, drive into the heels, squeeze the glute muscles by imagining you're extending the hips like in the bridge, right? Or the glute activation drill. Extend the hips and stand tall. By practicing this one motion, the frog deadlift, right? I call it the frog deadlift. We're learning how to pick stuff up and put stuff down with good form. Something that most people weren't taught or were taught in some way like, oh, you're supposed to keep your back vertical. That's not how it works. That's not how your body works. You're supposed to be able to hinge to the hips, keeping the weight in the heels and using your glutes primarily to extend the hips to an upright position. And so what you can do is this. Over time, you can start working and you can measure, okay, I can touch like, the tops of my shins. And then maybe a week later, you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to touch like the middle of my shins. And then maybe I'm gonna try to touch above my ankles, my toes, the floor. And you can keep bending your knees too as you come down. The goal eventually is to be able to come all the way down to the floor with a flat back in this position. That means you can do pretty much anything you want, including pick stuff up in a way that protects your body, fixes your lower body, protects your lower back, and makes your body feel good. All right, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this clip from the Lower Body Fix Masterclass. Now, if you're wondering yourself, what else did you teach in the Masterclass? Well, guess what? You can sign up right down below by clicking that link, and we're gonna send you for free the entire Lower Body Fix Masterclass, covering the foot, ankle, knee, hip, lower back, and tons of questions from our subscribers. So go ahead and click the link below, sign up, and we'll send you that link right now.